topic of discourse across the centuries. Men have attempted to properly define ethical behavior, yet the sheer volume of ethical dilemmas a man faces in one lifetime cannot be accounted for.
You might want to think of ethics as a tool that helps us create the difference between a good decision and a bad one. Ethics is the branch of philosophy that asks the practical question, what should we do? This leads to the study of things like values, principles, beliefs, and norms. These are the things that shape our choices. Ethics asks us, how should we live? What choices should we make? And what makes our lives worth living?
The Ten Commandments, Aristotle's Politics, they all attempted to outline ethical behavior. And while they serve some purpose to guide morality, the vastness is unconquerable. But let's talk about business ethics. The Industrial Revolution transformed our lives. We no longer survived. We became masters of our planet. Or so we assumed. We didn't really give any attention to the consequences of our decisions. See, morality did not fit into the idea of progress, and so it was set aside. Poor labor practices, capitalistic greed of the rich, and the inability of government to keep up with growth all resulted in a dystopia while promising utopian paradise. Where do we go from here? Well, it's not all doom and gloom. By the 1920s, business managers assumed responsibility of balancing maximization of profits with creating and maintaining an equilibrium with the demands of consumers, labor, and community. Corporate social responsibility was born.
Corporate social responsibility. It agrees that profit is good, but profit is only a byproduct, it's not the end goal. Instead, businesses exist to serve a purpose, to make products that transform customers' lives for the better, to provide employees with a healthy and enriching workplace, and to preserve the environment for future generations. Even if you can't calculate the bottom line impact of doing so. And if you do that, profits will come naturally.
Carroll's four-part definition says that corporate social responsibility encompasses the economic, legal, ethical, and philanthropic expectations that society has of organizations at a given point in time. A business must sustain themselves economically while functioning under the ground rules of law and meeting the normative expectations of society through ethical practices. Thereafter must the business be philanthropic. The United Nations also set sustainable development goals for businesses across nations to meet. A call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and achieve peace and prosperity. Industrialization created a facade of progress, but just below the surface existed a plethora of stresses on the planet. The resulting urbanization and population boom pushed life-supporting processes to their thresholds. The Union Territory, Puducherry, a region full of flora and fauna, was industrialized due to easy availability of land, water, labor, power, and government incentives. 1890 to 1970, total pollution load of 98.4 tons. 1960 saw an 18-fold increase in pollution. The industry setup was water intensive, resulting in industrial effluents and municipal solid waste being discharged into water bodies, resulting in contamination of the groundwater table. Suspended particulate matter rose from 499 tons to 7,834 tons. Sedimentation patterns disturbed plants, animals, endangered. endangered. Puducherry is a constant reminder of why profits should not be the only factors to drive business. The triple bottom line framework must be observed and followed. The people, the planet deserve attention. Sustainable business practices must be adopted for the sake of our current and future welfare. Indian commerce has been guided by religion and culture. The idea of dharma guides ethical behavior in the business. India was the first to mandate spend on CSR activities through a statutory provision in the Companies Act of 2013. Under Clause 135, targeted companies are required to spend a prescribed formula-based amount on CSR for the fiscal year and report on said activities. Schedule 7 provides a list of activities that comply with CSR clause. For example, eradication of hunger, encouraging education, gender equality. Also, failure to comply results in strict legal action with fines up to Rs 2,50,000 and potentially imprisonment. European countries like Sweden have also addressed issues related to CSR. In an official government communication, the Swedish Parliament has acknowledged the issues plaguing business practices and requested companies to comply with CSR standards. This includes following of OECD and UN guidelines to formulate policy, protecting the environment and becoming fossil-free, contributing to social development. India has set precedent by making CSR mandatory. No other country has done such a thing or taken such a drastic measure. While countries like Sweden have requested companies to be more ethical, they still allow for voluntary participation. Social responsibility is founded on morality and altruistic motivation. Hence, making CSR activities mandatory sounds oxymoronic. However, one could argue that the current path of progress has offered no other choice but to mandate such policy to prevent any further destruction and deterioration. Industrialization and globalization created modern society. Will we allow sustainability to lead future society?